The massive glass dome of the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with worried voices. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in curved rows, their different forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Some breathed through gills, others had multiple arms, and a few floated in special tanks filled with glowing liquid. Ambassador Kextar stood at the center platform, her blue-scaled hands shaking as she held the datapad. As a Zephyrian, she was used to staying calm during crisis meetings. Her people were known for their clear thinking and steady nerves. But today was different. Today, the numbers on her screen made no sense at all. "Honored council members," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's speakers. "I have finished reviewing the attack reports from the past 10 years. The results are disturbing." The chamber grew quiet. Even the Krogan war leaders stopped their usual grumbling and paid attention. When a Zephyrian said something was disturbing, everyone listened. Kextar touched her datapad, and a huge three-dimensional map appeared in the air above the platform. It showed their section of the galaxy, with thousands of star systems marked in different colors. Green dots showed peaceful worlds. Red dots marked the places where the Devourers had struck. The red dots formed a terrible pattern across the map. They spread like a disease, showing the path of destruction the Devourers had carved through space. Entire worlds had been emptied of life. Billions of beings had simply disappeared, leaving behind empty cities and silent space stations. "The Devourers have attacked 143 worlds," Kextar said. "They have taken the life force from over 50 billion beings. Every major species in our region has lost colonies." She paused and looked around the chamber. The faces staring back at her showed fear, anger, and sadness. The Altarians, with their large silver eyes, looked especially upset. They had lost more worlds than anyone else. Their telepathic abilities, which usually kept them safe, had done nothing against the Devourers. "The Synthesians have lost 22 colonies," Kextar continued. "The Krogan have lost 15. The Eternals, despite their ancient wisdom and power, have lost 8 worlds. Even the warrior clans of Drakmor have lost their border settlements." She touched the datapad again. Most of the red dots on the map faded away, but some remained. These showed a different pattern. Clusters of green dots surrounded by red ones, like safe islands in a sea of destruction. "But there is something we cannot explain," Kextar said. "One species has never been attacked. Not once. Not even approached. The Devourers have passed by their colonies many times, sometimes coming within a few light hours of populated human worlds. But they always turn away." A loud murmur filled the chamber. Several representatives stood up and began talking at once. The noise grew louder until Council Speaker Morthan, an ancient being made of living crystal, rang the harmony chimes to restore order. From the human section, Ambassador Chenwei rose slowly. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and calm brown eyes. Unlike many species who had evolved on worlds with different gravity or atmosphere, humans looked surprisingly ordinary. They had no natural armor, no telepathic powers, no advanced technology built into their bodies. They seemed almost fragile compared to most galactic citizens. "Honored Speaker," Chen said, "I must say that we humans are as confused as everyone else. We have no special protection against the Devourers. We use the same shield technology and warning systems as other colonies. If anything, our defenses are weaker than most." This caused another stir in the chamber. War Commander Thrak of the Krogan stood up, his massive form towering above his seat. His skin looked like gray stone, and his 4 arms ended in claws that could tear through metal. "Perhaps the humans have made a deal with these monsters," Thrak growled. "Perhaps they guide the Devourers to our worlds in exchange for their own safety." "That is a serious accusation," Chen replied, her voice staying steady despite the anger in the chamber. "We have lost family and friends on the attacked worlds just like everyone else. Human traders and diplomats have died in these attacks. Why would we sacrifice our own people?" Dr. Veltar of the Altarians stood next. Her people were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow with soft light. As one of the most powerful telepaths in the galaxy, her words carried great weight. "I have scanned human minds before," she said. "They are Unusual. Most species have organized thought patterns that follow logical paths. Human thoughts are chaotic, filled with random memories and conflicting emotions. It is difficult to read them clearly. Are you suggesting humans have natural defenses against psychic attack? Asked Construct 9947, the Synthesian representative. Its mechanical body gleamed with blue lights as it processed information. I am not sure, Veltar admitted. Human minds are different from anything we have studied. Perhaps the Devourers cannot feed on such disorganized consciousness. Council Speaker Morthan rang the harmony chimes again. These questions require investigation, the crystal being said, its voice creating musical tones. We cannot base decisions on suspicion and fear. I propose forming a joint research team to study this mystery. The humans should not be part of this investigation, War Commander Thrak declared. How can we trust them to help find the truth about their own immunity? Chen Wei stepped forward. With respect, War Commander. We want answers as much as anyone. Our immunity makes no sense to us either. We will cooperate fully with any investigation. We have nothing to hide. The debate continued for hours. Some species demanded immediate action against the humans. Others called for careful study. The Eternals, who had lived for thousands of years, urged patience and wisdom. The younger species wanted quick answers. Finally, the council voted. A joint investigation team would be formed, with representatives from the major species. The humans would be allowed to participate, but they would be watched carefully. If the investigation found evidence of human involvement with the Devourers, there would be serious consequences. As the session ended and representatives began to leave, Kextar studied the star map one more time. The pattern was clear and undeniable. In a galaxy full of death and destruction, the humans alone remained safe. There had to be a reason. She just hoped they would find the answer before it was too late for everyone else. The research vessel times Cosmic Harmony times drifted through the empty space between star systems. It was one of the largest ships in the galactic fleet. Built to house different species during long missions, special sections had different atmospheres, gravity levels, and even different types of lighting to keep everyone comfortable. Dr. Veltar sat in the ship's meditation chamber, trying to clear her mind after another frustrating day. As the team's lead xenopsychologist, she was supposed to understand how different species thought and felt. But after 3 weeks of studying human minds, she felt more confused than ever. The investigation team had worked together well so far. Construct 9947 had processed millions of data points about Devourer attacks. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the human xenobiologist, had shared everything the humans knew about the mysterious predators. Captain James Rodriguez had provided military analysis of attack patterns. Everyone seemed eager to find answers, but the answers made no sense. The door to the chamber opened with a soft hiss, and Construct 9947 entered. The Synthesian's blue lights blinked in the pattern that meant it was excited about something. Dr. Veltar, I have found something interesting, the artificial being said. Its voice was perfectly clear but had no emotion in it. Please review these records from the Tausetti incident. Veltar accepted the data tablet and began reading. Tausetti had been a mixed colony with humans, Altarians, and Zephyrians living together. When the Devourers attacked 2 years ago, they had taken everyone except the humans. The human residents had been found unconscious but alive, while the other species had been completely drained. The official report says the humans were lucky. Construct 9947 continued. They were in the deep mines when the attack happened, protected by natural rock formations that blocked psychic energy. But you found something else? Veltar asked. Yes, I accessed the mining company's work schedules. No humans were supposed to be in the deep mines that day. They had all been assigned to surface operations. But for unknown reasons, every human worker decided to go underground just hours before the attack. Veltar felt a chill run down her spine. That seems impossible. How could they all know to hide? That is what we must determine, Construct 9947 replied. I have found similar patterns at 17 other mixed colonies. Humans always seem to be somewhere else when the Devourers arrive. Before Veltar could respond, The chamber's communication system activated. Captain Rodriguez's voice filled the room. All team members to the main briefing room. We have new developments. The briefing room buzzed with activity when Veltar and Construct 9947 arrived. Captain Rodriguez stood at the front, pointing at a three-dimensional display showing ship movements. Dr. Martinez sat nearby, her face pale and worried. We've been tracking Devourer scout ships, Rodriguez began. They send out small vessels ahead of their main fleet to examine potential targets. Over the past month, we've recorded dozens of these scouts approaching human colonies. The display showed tiny ships moving through space, getting closer and closer to green dots that marked human worlds. Watch what happens when they reach the outer system boundaries, Rodriguez said. The scout ships on the display suddenly stopped their advance. They held position for several hours, then turned around and flew away at high speed. Every time, Rodriguez continued, they approach within 2 light hours of a human colony, then retreat. We've never seen them do this with any other species. Dr. Martinez spoke up from her seat. Could there be something about human space that they find dangerous? Some kind of technology we're not aware of? We've scanned every human colony in the database, Construct 9947 replied. Their defensive systems are standard. In fact, most human colonies have weaker defenses than similar settlements from other species. Veltar studied the display carefully. As a telepath, she was trained to notice patterns in behavior. The Devourer scouts were showing classic signs of fear or confusion. I would like to examine human colonists directly, she announced. If humans have some natural defense against psychic attack, I should be able to sense it. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. Dr. Martinez and I are willing to be scanned, but I'm not sure how much that will help. We're not colonists. Any data would be useful, Veltar said. May I begin now? Both humans agreed. Veltar placed her hands on Martinez's forehead and reached out with her mind. What she found was completely unexpected. Most species had minds like organized libraries. Thoughts were filed away in neat sections, with clear connections between ideas and memories. Emotions flowed in predictable patterns. It was easy for a telepath to understand what someone was thinking or feeling, but Martinez's mind was chaos. Thoughts bounced around randomly, jumping from childhood memories to scientific equations to worries about her daughter back home. Her emotions were a swirling storm of contradictory feelings. She could be happy and sad at the same time, excited about the mission but afraid of what they might find. Veltar pulled back, feeling dizzy. This is very unusual. Captain Rodriguez, may I scan you as well? Rodriguez nodded, and Veltar tried again. His mind was just as chaotic, but in different ways. Military training had given him more discipline. But underneath the surface, his thoughts were just as scattered. He worried about tactical problems while remembering jokes his friends had told him. He felt respect for his alien teammates, while also being suspicious of their motives. Your minds are like storms, Veltar told them. Most species think in straight lines, but human thoughts spiral in all directions at once. How do you function with so much mental noise? Martinez laughed. We've always been this way. Humans call it creativity or imagination. We can think about many things at once. But it must be exhausting, Veltar said. Your minds never seem to rest. We're used to it, Rodriguez replied. Maybe that's why meditation and sleep are so important to us. We need time to quiet the noise. That night, Veltar sent her preliminary report to the other team members. Human minds were unlike anything she had studied before. If the Devourers relied on reading clear thoughts to track their prey, human mental chaos might actually provide protection. But 3 days later, Construct 9947 made a discovery that changed everything. The Synthesian called an emergency meeting and displayed encrypted communication intercepts on the main screen. I have been monitoring Council communications, it announced. Several species are planning unauthorized action against human colonies. They intend to force a confrontation with the Devourers. The messages on the screen were chilling. War Commander Thrak and others had decided they could not wait for the investigation to finish. They planned to expose a human colony to Devourer attack and see what happened. This is madness, Dr. Martinez said, her voice shaking with anger. They're planning to use innocent civilians as bait. Which colony? Rodriguez demanded. New Portland in the Kepler system. Construct 9947 replied. 50,000 human farmers and their families. The operation begins in 2 days. Veltar felt sick. She had agreed to investigate humans, not help get them killed. But she also knew that War Commander Thrak would not listen to protests. The Krogan believed that only through battle could truth be discovered. We have to warn them, Martinez said. If we do that, the other council members will say we are protecting the humans because we are part of their conspiracy. Veltar pointed out sadly. Rodriguez stood up and walked to the communication panel. Then, we'll have to find another way to protect them, he said. Because I won't let innocents die for this investigation. As he began sending coded messages to New Portland, Veltar realized their mission had become much more dangerous. Soon they would have answers about why the Devourers avoided humans. She just hoped those answers would not cost 50,000 lives. The planet Kepler 442b looked peaceful from space. Its green and blue surface was covered with neat rows of farms that stretched to the horizon. The human colonists called it New Portland, after an old city on Earth. 50,000 people lived there, growing food that fed colonies throughout the sector. They had no idea that death was coming. High above the planet, hidden behind its largest moon, the joint fleet waited in silence. War Commander Thrak's massive battlecruiser times Iron Fang times led a force of 30 ships from different species. They had come here with one purpose: to force the Devourers to attack a human colony, so they could finally understand why humans were always spared. On the research vessel times Cosmic Harmony *, Dr. Veltar watched the preparations with growing horror. She stood in the observation deck with the rest of the investigation team, staring down at the innocent world below. This is wrong, Dr. Martinez whispered. Her hands were pressed against the transparent aluminum window, and tears ran down her face. Those are farmers down there. Teachers. Children. They've never hurt anyone. Captain Rodriguez stood behind her, his jaw tight with controlled anger. The signal broadcasters are almost ready, he reported. Thrak's people will start transmitting New Portland's location on all known Devourer frequencies in 1 hour. Can we still stop this? Veltar asked. No. Construct 9947 replied. Its lights dimmed with something that might have been sadness. I intercepted new orders from the Galactic Council. This operation has been approved by emergency vote. Apparently, more colonies were attacked while we were investigating. The Council is desperate for answers. Rodriguez activated his personal communicator and spoke quietly in human military codes. Veltar's universal translator could not make sense of the rapid words, but she understood he was warning the Colonial Defense Force below. Not that their light fighters and shield generators would do any good against a Devourer fleet. Broadcasting now, came Thrak's voice over the ship's communication system. All vessels maintain position and observe. If the humans have a secret weapon, we will see it today. The signal broadcasters began their work, sending New Portland's exact location across the galaxy on frequencies the Devourers were known to monitor. The messages repeated every few minutes. Coordinates, population data, and information about the colony's defenses. It was like ringing a dinner bell for monsters. They did not have to wait long. 18 hours after the broadcasts began, the ship's sensors detected something massive approaching from deep space. Construct 9947's lights flashed in alarm as it processed the incoming data. Devourer Hive ship detected, it announced. Estimated size: 15 kilometers in length. It is accompanied by 47 smaller vessels. On the main display, the Devourer fleet appeared as red dots moving steadily toward New Portland. The Hive ship was enormous. Larger than most space stations. Its dark surface seemed to absorb light, making it look like a hole in space itself. By the ancient codes, whispered War Commander Thrak over the communication channel. I have never seen a fleet this large. They must be very hungry. Dr. Martinez had gone completely pale. That's enough ships to drain every human in the sector, she said. Why did they send so many for one small farm colony? As the Devourer fleet drew closer, The hidden observation ships began recording everything. This would be the first time anyone had watched the Devourers attack a human target. Finally, they would learn the truth about human immunity. But something strange began happening as the dark ships approached the inner system. "Their formation is breaking apart," reported the sensor officer on Thrak's ship. "They appear to be confused?" Veltar watched the tactical display with growing amazement. The Devourer ships had started in perfect attack formation, but now they were drifting away from each other. Some had stopped moving entirely. Others were flying in slow circles, as if their pilots had forgotten where they were going. "I'm detecting unusual communication patterns," Construct 9947 announced. "The Devourers are broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously. The signals appear to be distressed." The fleet continued toward New Portland, but their behavior became stranger with each passing hour. Ships would suddenly accelerate, then slow down again. Some began flying away from the planet before turning back. Their perfect military precision had dissolved into chaos. On New Portland's surface, the colonists were preparing for the worst. Captain Rodriguez had managed to get warning messages through despite the communication blackout Thrak had imposed. Families were gathering in underground shelters. The small defense force was powering up their weapons, though they knew it would not be enough. Governor Patricia Chen, Ambassador Chen Wei's sister, stood in the colony's command center watching the approaching fleet on her screens. She was a tough woman who had spent 20 years turning this world into a paradise for human families. She would not run away now. "All civilians to the deep shelters," she ordered her staff. "Defense force, take positions around the main settlements. If we're going to die today, we'll die protecting our people." But as the Devourer fleet reached the distance where Earth's moon would orbit, something incredible happened. The massive Hive ship suddenly stopped. For several minutes, it hung motionless in space while the smaller vessels continued their confused flight patterns around it. Then, without warning, the entire fleet began broadcasting on emergency frequencies. "What are they saying?" Dr. Martinez asked. Veltar was concentrating hard, using her telepathic abilities to sense the emotions behind the alien transmissions. What she felt made no sense at all. "They're terrified," she said in amazement. "The Devourers are absolutely terrified." As if responding to some silent command, the entire Devourer fleet suddenly turned away from New Portland. The ships that had been flying in circles snapped into tight formation. The vessels that had stopped moving roared to life with emergency acceleration. In less than 10 minutes, the largest Devourer attack force ever recorded was fleeing the system at maximum speed. War Commander Thrak's angry voice filled the communication channels. "What happened? Why did they retreat?" The humans showed no weapons, activated no defenses. Down on New Portland, Governor Chen was asking the same questions. Her defense force had not fired a single shot. The planetary shields were still running on minimum power. Nothing had happened that could explain why 48 Devourer vessels had run away from one small farming colony. On the Times Cosmic Harmony asterisk, Dr. Veltar was studying the sensor readings with complete confusion. During the retreat, she had managed to record some of the psychic emanations from the Devourer fleet. The emotions she had sensed were unlike anything in her experience. The Devourers had not retreated because they were beaten. They had fled because they were convinced they were about to be eaten by something much worse than themselves. "The humans are more dangerous than we thought," Construct 9947 said, reviewing the battle recordings. But Dr. Martinez was shaking her head. "No. You don't understand. We didn't do anything. The colony has no secret weapons. Those people are just farmers." "Then why did the Devourers run?" Rodriguez asked. Veltar looked at the recorded psychic emanations on her screen. Deep in the alien transmissions, she was beginning to recognize patterns. The fear she had sensed was specific, focused. The Devourers were not afraid of human technology or weapons. They were afraid of the humans themselves. "I need to analyze these recordings more carefully," she announced. "There is something here we are missing. Something about the way Devourers perceive humans." As the fleet began preparing to return to Council space, Veltar remained in her laboratory, studying the data from humanity's strangest victory. She had a terrible feeling that when she found the answer, none of them were going to like what it revealed about the species they thought they knew. Dr. Veltar had not slept in 3 days. She sat in the research station's advanced laboratory, surrounded by screens showing psychic wave patterns and alien communication data. Her silver eyes were red with exhaustion. But she could not stop working. The answer was here somewhere, hidden in the strange signals the Devourers had broadcast during their retreat from New Portland. The research station, times Haven's rest times, was the most advanced facility in the galaxy for studying telepathic phenomena. Its psychic amplification equipment could boost mental abilities far beyond natural limits. Veltar had been using the machines to analyze the Devourer transmissions, trying to understand what had frightened them so badly. "Dr. Veltar," came a gentle voice from the laboratory entrance. "You need to rest." Veltar turned to see Dr. Martinez standing in the doorway, carrying a tray with food and stimulants. The human looked worried, which was strange because Martinez should be celebrating. Her people had just survived the largest Devourer attack in galactic history without losing a single life. "I cannot rest yet," Veltar said, turning back to her screens. "I am very close to understanding something important. The psychic patterns in these recordings are unlike anything I have studied before." Martinez set the tray down and looked at the displays. The screens showed waves of energy that looked like violent storms, all colored in deep reds and blacks that seemed to hurt the eyes. "What exactly are you looking for?" Martinez asked. "I am trying to understand how the Devourers see your species," Veltar replied. "When they approached New Portland, their psychic emanations showed extreme fear. But what were they afraid of? Your colony had no weapons that could threaten them." Veltar touched a control, and new patterns appeared on the screens. These were cleaner, easier to understand. They showed the normal psychic signatures of various galactic species, organized, predictable, easy to read. "Most species broadcast their thoughts in clear patterns," Veltar explained. "When Devourers encounter us, they can immediately tell how many minds are present, what those minds are thinking, and how to drain their life force efficiently." She switched to another screen, this one showing the chaotic signals she had recorded from human minds during her earlier examinations. "But human minds are different. Your thoughts are scattered, contradictory, filled with random noise. To a psychic species, you appear almost broken." "Broken how?" Martinez asked, though she did not sound offended. "Like someone who has survived terrible psychic trauma," Veltar said softly. "Your mental patterns look like the minds of beings who have been attacked by psychic predators many times, and somehow survived." Martinez frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Humans have never encountered psychic predators before. We didn't even know they existed until we joined the galactic community." Veltar nodded. "That is what makes this so puzzling. But I think I have found a way to see what the Devourers actually experienced when they approached your colony." She led Martinez to a large machine in the center of the laboratory. It looked like a chair surrounded by crystalline structures that glowed with soft light. This was the most advanced psychic amplifier ever built, capable of boosting telepathic abilities 100-fold. "I have been afraid to use this machine at full power," Veltar admitted. "It could damage my mind if I am not careful. But it is the only way to truly understand the Devourer perspective." "Is it safe?" Martinez asked with concern. "Probably not," Veltar replied with a weak smile. "But we need answers. Too many lives depend on understanding this mystery." Before Martinez could protest, Veltar sat in the machine and activated the psychic amplifiers. The crystals around her began to glow brighter, and she closed her eyes in concentration. Slowly, carefully, she reached out with her enhanced telepathic abilities and touched the recorded Devourer transmissions. Instead of just sensing emotions, she began to experience the actual thoughts and perceptions of the alien predators. What she found was beyond horrifying. Through Devourer senses, she experienced the approach to New Portland. At first, everything seemed normal. The planet showed up as a bright beacon of life force, exactly the kind of target the Devourers preferred. 50,000 minds, all broadcasting their thoughts and emotions into space. But as the fleet drew closer, the human mental signals became clearer. And that was when everything went wrong. To the Devourers, human minds did not look chaotic. They looked like the aftermath of countless feeding frenzies. Every human appeared to contain not one consciousness, but thousands. The scattered thoughts and random memories looked like the psychic screams of victims whose minds had been torn apart and absorbed. In the Devourer perception, every single human on New Portland was a master predator who had fed on consciousness for centuries. The random emotions and contradictory impulses were interpreted as the death cries of thousands of absorbed victims, all trapped forever inside human minds. But that was not the worst part. The Devourers had archives of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. At the very top of their fear list were creatures called the Echoes, ancient psychic hunters who had learned to disguise themselves as their own prey. The Echoes would pretend to be harmless beings, living among their victims for years, slowly feeding on their companion's life force while appearing completely normal. To the approaching Devourer fleet, every human on New Portland looked exactly like an Echo. The mental chaos, the contradictory emotions, the scattered thoughts, all of it matched the psychic signature of the galaxy's most feared apex predators. From the Devourer perspective, they had not found a helpless farming colony. They had stumbled into a nest of creatures that made the Devourers themselves look like harmless insects. Veltar screamed and jerked back from the machine, her mind reeling from what she had experienced. Martinez rushed to help her, but Veltar pushed her away in terror. "Do not touch me," Veltar gasped. "I know what you are now." "What are you talking about?" Martinez asked, looking hurt and confused. Veltar stared at the human with new understanding. Martinez looked so normal, so harmless. But now Veltar knew what psychic predators saw when they looked at humans. She saw the chaos of thoughts, the fragments of memory, the emotional storms that never ceased. It all made perfect sense now. Humans were not protected by technology or luck. They were avoided because every psychic species in the galaxy instinctively recognized them as the most dangerous predators ever encountered. "The Devourers think humans are Echoes," Veltar whispered. "They believe your entire species consists of ancient psychic predators who have learned to hide among lesser beings." Martinez sat down heavily in a nearby chair. "But that's impossible. We're not psychic at all. We can't read minds or drain life force." "It does not matter," Veltar replied, her voice shaking. "Your natural mental state, the way you think and feel, is identical to creatures that have consumed thousands of consciousness over millennia. To any psychic species, you appear to be gods of predation." The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of machines. Martinez stared at Veltar, while Veltar stared back with a mixture of awe and terror. "We have to tell the others," Martinez finally said. "Yes," Veltar agreed. "But I do not think they will like what we have learned. The galaxy's greatest mystery has been solved, and the answer is that humans are accidentally the most terrifying species any of us have ever encountered." As they prepared to contact the rest of the team, Veltar realized that everything was about to change. The humans had been welcomed into the galactic community because they seemed harmless and normal. Now everyone would know the truth. Humanity was normal, and that normality made them appear as cosmic nightmares to half the species in the galaxy. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest gathering in the organization's history. Representatives from over 200 species filled the Great Chamber, while millions more watched through live transmissions across the galaxy. Everyone knew that Dr. Veltar had discovered something important about human immunity to Devourer attacks. No one was prepared for what she was about to reveal. Council Speaker Moore then rang the harmony chimes, and the vast chamber fell silent. The ancient crystal being's voice carried clearly to every corner of the room. "Dr. Veltar of Altair Prime will now present the findings of the joint investigation into human immunity to Devourer predation." Veltar walked slowly to the center platform. She had not slept since her discovery 3 days ago. Her silver skin looked pale, and her large eyes showed the strain of what she had learned. When she reached the speaking podium, she paused and looked around the chamber at hundreds of different faces from dozens of worlds. "Honored council members," she began, her voice barely steady. "I must warn you that what I am about to share will change how we view our human allies forever." Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the human section, flanked by her diplomatic staff. She had requested a private briefing before this session, But Veltar had refused. The Altarian claimed that some discoveries were too dangerous to share in small groups. They needed the wisdom of the entire council to decide what to do with the truth. 3 weeks ago, we forced a confrontation between Devourer forces and the human colony at New Portland. Veltar continued. 48 Devourer vessels approached the planet, then fled without explanation. Using advanced psychic amplification technology, I have discovered why. The three-dimensional display above the platform lit up, showing recordings from the Devourer retreat. The alien ships were clearly visible. Turning away from New Portland in apparent terror, the Devourers did not retreat because of human weapons or defenses, Veltar announced. They fled because they believed they were about to be attacked by the most dangerous predators in galactic history. End quote. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. War Commander Thrak stood up from his seat. Explain yourself, the Krogan demanded. The humans showed no weapons. Their colony had minimal defenses. That is correct, Veltar replied. The Devourers were not afraid of human technology. They were afraid of the humans themselves. She touched a control, and the display changed to show psychic wave patterns. The audience saw the chaotic, contradictory mental signals that Veltar had recorded from human minds. To understand this, you must know how Devourers perceive other species, Veltar explained. They are psychic predators who feed on consciousness. When they approach a target, they read the mental patterns of their victims to determine how many minds are present and how to drain them efficiently. The display showed clean, organized thought patterns from various galactic species. Even the warlike Krogan had minds that followed predictable structures. Most species broadcast their thoughts in clear, logical patterns. Veltar continued. But humans are different. Human minds contain what appears to be thousands of fragmented consciousness, all mixed together in chaotic storms of thought and memory. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Several representatives were beginning to look worried. To a Devourer, this mental chaos is not evidence of creativity or imagination. It is evidence of feeding. They believe that humans are ancient psychic predators who have consumed thousands of victims over millennia. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Council Speaker Morthan had to ring the harmony chimes repeatedly to restore order. Furthermore, Veltar said when the noise died down, the Devourers have classified humans as echoes, the most feared predator species in their archives. Echoes are creatures that disguise themselves as harmless beings while slowly feeding on their companions. To the Devourers, every human appears to be a master predator pretending to be prey. From the Synthesian section, Construct 9947's lights flashed in disbelief. Are you suggesting that humans are actually psychic predators? No, Veltar replied. Humans have no psychic abilities at all, but their natural mental state is identical to creatures that have spent centuries consuming consciousness. The Devourers cannot tell the difference. War Commander Thrak slammed his massive fist on his chair's armrest. This is impossible. Humans are weak. They have no natural armor, no claws, no telepathic powers. That is exactly what makes them so terrifying to psychic predators, Veltar answered. The Devourers believe that any creature capable of appearing so harmless while carrying the psychic signature of ultimate predators must be incredibly dangerous. The implications were staggering. Ambassador Chen Wei stood slowly, her face pale but determined. Dr. Veltar, she said carefully, are you telling this council that my species accidentally became the most feared predators in the galaxy simply by being ourselves? Yes, Veltar replied softly. Human mental chaos, which you consider normal, appears to psychic species as evidence of having consumed thousands of victims. Your creativity, your contradictory emotions, your ability to hold multiple thoughts simultaneously. All of this looks like the aftermath of countless feeding frenzies. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Representatives stared at the humans in their section with new understanding and growing fear. Elder Sarthek of the Eternals was the first to speak. His ancient voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of experience. If this is true, he said slowly, then we have been living alongside creatures we believed were harmless refugees from a small world. Instead, we have welcomed apex predators into our homes. We are not predators, Dr. Martinez protested from the human section. We're farmers and teachers and artists. We've never consumed anyone's consciousness, but that is the beautiful irony, Ambassador Chen Wei said, standing and walking to the center platform. Veltar stepped aside to let her speak. Chen Wei looked around the chamber with calm, steady eyes. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly to every corner of the vast room. Dr. Veltar is correct about human nature, she began. We are predators. We always have been. We just learned to prey on ourselves first. The chamber went completely silent. Even the harmony chimes seemed to hold their breath. For thousands of years, humans have been at war, Chen Wei continued. Not just physical wars, but wars of ideas, competitions of creativity, struggles for resources and territory. We compete with each other constantly. Our minds are chaotic because we are always fighting internal battles, between logic and emotion, between what we want and what we know is right, between our individual desires and our social responsibilities. She paused and smiled, though the expression was not entirely comforting. The Devourers are correct to fear us, just not in the way they think. We are not ancient psychic predators who have consumed thousands of victims. We are something much more dangerous. We are predators who have been practicing on ourselves for millennia. War Commander Thrak leaned forward, his forearms tense. What do you mean? What do you mean? Every human carries the voices of our ancestors, the memories of our cultures, the conflicts of our societies, Chen Wei explained. We argue with ourselves constantly, question our own beliefs, fight our own impulses. To a psychic predator, this looks like evidence of having absorbed thousands of consciousness, but it is really evidence of something else. We have learned to be predators and prey simultaneously. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Chen Wei continued speaking, her voice growing stronger. Human civilization is built on conflict resolution, on finding ways to channel our predatory instincts into productive competition. Our sports, our business, our science, our art, all of it comes from our drive to hunt and compete and win. We have turned our predatory nature inward, using it to push ourselves to greater achievements. Elder Sarthek spoke again, his voice filled with wonder and fear. So the humans are not disguised predators. They are evolved predators who have learned to hunt ideas instead of flesh. Exactly, Chen Wei replied. And that terrifies the Devourers because they cannot understand it. They see the evidence of our internal battles and assume we have been feeding on other consciousness for eons. They cannot comprehend a species that would voluntarily engage in such mental conflict. Dr. Veltar stepped forward again. This explains everything we observed. Humans are not protected by technology or luck. They are protected by the fact that their natural mental state resembles the most dangerous predators in galactic history. Council Speaker Moore then rang the harmony chimes, but this time the sound seemed different, more solemn, more final. The implications of this discovery must be carefully considered, the crystal being announced. We have learned that humanity poses no direct threat to galactic security. However, their mere existence provides protection against psychic predators that have terrorized our colonies for decades. As the session ended and representatives began filing out of the chamber, many cast nervous glances at the human section. Some looked afraid, others seemed amazed. A few appeared thoughtful, as if reconsidering everything they knew about the species they had welcomed as allies. Ambassador Chen Wei remained at the center platform, watching the exodus with a slight smile. Dr. Martinez joined her, looking overwhelmed by everything that had been revealed. So we're safe because we're accidentally terrifying? Martinez asked. Not accidentally, Chen Wei replied. We're terrifying because we're human. Our chaos, our conflicts, our contradictions, they are not flaws to be fixed. They are the source of our strength and, apparently, our protection. As the great chamber emptied, the humans stood together in the center, surrounded by the vastness of galactic civilization. They had come to the stars as refugees from a small world, seeking their place among the cosmic community. Instead, they had discovered that their place was as the galaxy's most effective deterrent against its worst nightmares. Not because they were warriors or conquerors, but because they were beautifully, chaotically, contradictorily human. And that humanity, which had always been their greatest challenge, had quietly become their greatest shield among the stars.